Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting here with another amazing guest for you today. We are sitting here today with Matt Potratz. Matt is a former professional snowmobile athlete. He actually survived a catastrophic avalanche accident that left him in a coma for 41 days and hospitalized for over 100 days, ultimately transforming his life into a journey of resilience as a motivational speaker and author, inspiring others to see adversity as a catalyst for growth. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. It's a very interesting story that we're going to go into in just a little bit. But before we do that, we do like to have an icebreaker on the show. The question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
Cartoon character. I have to say Goofy. Goofy, just because I like I'm not afraid to be silly. I'm not afraid to be myself, and I'm not afraid to make people laugh and be goofy. So yeah, let's go with Goofy.
I like that one. I like that one. So, just to sort of slide into things a little bit easier here, how would you define procrastination, Matt? And what does it mean to you personally?
I would say procrastination is just putting off what is best done now for second best later. I think every human being at some point struggles a little bit with procrastination, but I found that you're best off just to seize the moment, get it done now, because later seems like it's always second best. It's not, I don't know, it's just something about getting it done now. I'm all about the power of now. So
I like that. I like that. And we all know that there's no real 100% cure all or thing that's, 100% bulletproof. But what's been your secret sauce to, pushing through?
I think just understanding the power of now, the fact that there's never been a better time to improve than now. There's never been a better time to get better at something than now. There's never been a better time to improve your marriage, your relationship, your skill sets, and then now. I mean, I just don't think there's a lot of people can't really make an argument for being best to wait till later. Now, I guess there might be some things when you should wait and grow and develop before you're ready for it, but that's different. That's not procrastination. That's putting off the right timing, right? For me, it's just knowing that when I was going through my recovery from my accident, for example, I always said I got to do this now, or I'm going to regret it later. Look back, regretting it later, saying I wish I would have because I had a timeline, right?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to be where you are today?
Well, I kind of accidentally became a pro level status on a snowmobile. I shouldn't say, I mean, not necessarily accidentally. I've always excelled at what I do and I always try to do my best, but I love the sport of snowmobiling. I was really into it. It was my passion. I loved to ride and cover big backcountry. And I just kept developing my skill set and got better and better, more comfortable on a snowmobile. And pretty soon I was able to push the limits a little bit further because that's my personality is to push the limits and began to climb some really crazy, what we called six shoots, which are just narrow outcroppings between rocks that you climb up a cliff basically on a snowmobile, jumping off cliffs, climbing chutes, even through the powder, doing impressive maneuvers. And pretty soon I got noticed and got asked to ride on camera. And then once I took one visit on camera, they kept calling me and asked me to come back again and again and again. And it wasn't just kind of one thing led to another. And pretty soon I was in 7 different snowmobile motion pictures and was one of the top featured athletes. And I got to ride with the top guys in the world and just explore some of the most incredible mountains that the Western US and Canada have to offer and just got to see things and do things that most people couldn't even imagine in their lifetime. But in March 2009, we were filming a hill climb segment in what I call my home turf in McCall, Idaho, where I live here in Idaho. And we knew there was some compromising avalanche conditions. We knew there always is kind of some risk of it in the country that we ride in. And so we do our usual beacon check and shovel check and probe check, make sure everything's all dialed in before we head out for the day. And you always do the check thinking, well, I'm probably not going to need it, but it's good to do the check, right? But on that day, I said no to some bigger stuff that day because I was a little uncertain about the avalanche conditions. But this hill that I was climbing was not really that huge. It was just, I mean, it was pretty wild. It was pretty cool shoot, but wasn't like typically in a slide zone. And so I set off to climb the hill, and the camera was rolling. We were ready to rock and roll, and I broke out of the chute. Looked like I was going to claw my way over the top, no problem. And all of a sudden, 25 yards above me, the avalanche just fractured off 2.5 feet deep. The entire slope just started coming down. And when it comes down above you, there's not much you can do about it. Sometimes when it breaks off at you or below you, you can outrun it. But when it breaks off above you, you're just at the mercy of the snow at that point. So the snow just consumed me and carried me off a small wall of rock. And assuming that banged me up a little bit. Then it violently crushed me into a big old tree, a big dead tree, and buried me below the tree. And my friends initially, they're obviously in near panic, they scattered out, thinking we got to find him quick. And they thought they found me right away. They saw my bright orange helmet sticking out of the snow. Like, we got him, here. We got him. He's over here. They rushed over to my helmet, dug out my helmet to find an empty helmet, a fully intact chin strap, but no mat in sight. So as you can imagine, they were like, "Oh my gosh, we're in near panic," you know. So at that point in time, they got out their Avalanche beacons. These beacons are a little thing. They're about the size of a cell phone, roughly a little bit bigger. They go in a pocket right here against our base layer. All day long, these beacons transmit the same signal. So everyone in the group has the same signal. We do a beacon check at the trailhead. Then if somebody goes down, the group pulls theirs out, switches to search mode, leaving one beacon in transmit mode, which of course in this case is my beacon. So within minutes, their beacons guided them in on the distance it was and the direction it was. They found my fingers sticking out of the snow. But how do you find a pair of fingers on a mountainside full of snow without some kind of guidance? I just don't think you do in time. And so that the beacon saved my life. But they dug down. I'm a pretty tall guy. I was down about a full arm's depth. They dug down a full arm's depth to find my body. They found my ears, nose, mouth is packed with snow. They took a finger and fished the snow out of my mouth because they knew they had to get my airway opened up. And they got my airway opened up, and they were very careful not to move me, unsure about injuries. And I was breathing, but making like a lot of weird wheezing noises and struggling big time. And so they knew that I was fully unconscious, no response whatsoever. And so they knew we have to get some help like right now. So my best friend Tim ran to the top, shouldn't say ran, rode a snowmobile to the top of the ridge with a cell phone to call for a helicopter. And they got a helicopter en route, and there's a perfect lake bed right by the Avalanche site they could have landed. But right after the Avalanche, I guess you could say the weather decided was going to replenish the snow that slid off the mountain. It started snowing hard, so the helicopter flew as far as they could. They couldn't get to that lake bed. They had to retreat to McCall Airport. So the new plan was to get a ground crew en route with a sled. We were way back in the backcountry, so they knew it was going to be a while. So my friends went back to my body and covered me up, get me out of the snow best they could. Got me wrapped in a space blanket and covered me up and keep me out of the weather the best they could. And they'd watch me lay there unconscious and wheezing and making weird noises for 90 minutes, an hour and a half, waiting for ground crew to arrive. When the ground crew got there, they immediately said, "Man, we've got to get a helicopter out here if possible." And so they made a second attempt to fly and still couldn't make it. This time they made it to Brundage Ski Hill. And so they took me by sled to the ski hill, and they finally got me on a helicopter enough to get in, and the snow broke enough to get the helicopter en route to Boise. They landed at St. Alphonsus Medical Center in Boise, the capital city of Idaho, of course. They landed there, and right on the helipad, they took the gurney of the helicopter, and I essentially I died. I stopped breathing. Of course, they rushed around, resuscitated me, got me breathing again, and pushed me into ER to discover the avalanche had just crushed my body. They found a broken neck. T4, 5, and 6 were crushed. Compound fractured left femur, blew my left femur in half like there's bone fragments on the x-ray. Crushed my left rib cage. Literally broke my top 2 left ribs off my sternum, off the middle bone, and caved in my left lung, or at least punctured my left lung in a few spots. And then they were puzzled, like, how's the helmet get off a guy's head with a chin strap intact? And so they figured the force of blow was strong enough. I wore my chin strap just loose enough. It took the chin strap up my chin, up my face, put abrasions at my face, and ripped my helmet right off my head. And so biggest concern was I struck a tree like a rag doll with no protection around my brain. They found hematomas on both sides of my brain, which blood clotting, blood pooling, and brain damage, right? And so the initial report of my family was, look, we're not yet going to spend money to treat Matt's injuries because it doesn't appear he's going to survive the night. And so, I mean, to go from top of my game and in my book, I described to be hero to zero, right? I was top of everything and I was doing well in life and life was good and I was excelling. And then boom, in 12 seconds from the time that avalanche fractured, the time I was crushed in the tree and buried was 12 seconds. So in 12 seconds, everything changed. And so obviously by the grace of God, I survived the night. But the next day, the whole reality check, I was unconscious. I was unresponsive to life. I had no signs of anything. And so they do what's called, they declared me to be in a comatose state, and they do what's called painful stimuli, which in a comatose state, your body should respond in some way to pain. It should flinch or shake or move or show some indication it's at least aware of that pain. So they began again, poke me, prod me, shake me. They dig into my fingernails and do all kinds of things that would cause pain. And I showed no signs of life. So the doctor reported to my family, said, look, it doesn't look very good here, but I'm going to try one last thing. He said, I'm hooked, brain scan him out. With the brain scan in place, I'm going to again inflict pain in him. Then he said, if the scan doesn't show some kind of response, we're in big trouble here. If there's any hope here at all, his brain has to respond to our input. So they hooked the scan up, began to again poke me, prod me, shake me, and dig me. They lift under your fingernails because it causes extreme pain. Nothing on the scan. So just to confirm it, he picked up my left leg, my broken leg, my shattered femur, not even been fully treated yet. Picked it up off the table and just dropped it whack to free fall. Man, I don't think I got to explain to you that would cause extreme pain, right? And the scan didn't show anything to be excited about. So with confidence, he marched out to my family. He said, I'm sorry. He said this. He said, short of a miracle, Matt will not be with us anymore. He said, technically he's alive because the machine is breathing for him. So therefore his heart is beating. He says, near as I can tell outside of that, Matt is essentially brain dead. So if I unplug the cord, he's gone. My family just sunk back in shock, thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. My dad was thinking, I gotta say bye to my oldest son. But my dad just couldn't come to terms with that. And he said, Doc, I'm sorry, but I can't go there yet. I'm not willing to accept that yet. I want a second opinion. And that time frame, phone calls, texts, emails went out literally across the nation. In fact, even across the world, because my mom's family happened to be World Christian Ministries or missionaries. And they got teams overseas praying for me as well. And so prayers went up across the world. My dad went down to the waiting area with a group of my closest friends, began to pray for me, hands on, just laid hands on me, basically begging God for mercy at this point. They've been in there about an hour and a half and started to accept reality that we probably better say goodbye to Matt. This is probably going to have to this is it, right? And so, but good friend of mine, John Heston, was in the room though. He spoke up and said, guys, I don't know why, but I have a feeling like Matt knows we're here. This weird feeling like he knows we're in the room. Why don't we see what happens if we try to get him response? Give it a shot if we try. So they agreed, okay, yeah, let's try. So John got right in my face and yelled, John, if you can hear me, open your eyes. I couldn't. Oh, actually, no, he said, raise your right leg. I couldn't raise my leg, but they're shocked. Like it moved. He moved a little bit. He moved it. And so they played it on a little bit more and got me to lightly squeeze a hand. So there's really no way around that. It's a miracle that I showed signs of life, and the doctor came back in thinking they were just wasting his time, but they proved to him they got me to squeeze his hand too. But that was not the end of the road by any means. I mean, I was alive and that was great, but it was a long time before he came out of the comatose state. And the doctor warned, he said, look, if he does come out, when he does, he will not be the same person you once knew. He said he's got brain damage on both sides of his brain on top of some minor asphyxia, which of course is lack of oxygen during the burial. He said on top of that, as near as I can tell, looking at the scans of Matt's spine, there's a very good chance he'll never walk again. So my family just had to lay there, watch me lay there, unconscious essentially, and not knowing A, if I was even going to come out of the comatose state, and B, if I did, the condition of my body and brain when I did. And so, but they never lost the faith. They never stopped believing. They never stopped praying. They never stopped talking in my ear and encouraging me. I have no memory of those talks, but I do believe that I heard those things, and they kept believing. But 10 days into the coma, 10 days into the comatose state, something very special happened. They'll never be forgotten in my lifetime or theirs. I'm a father. I'm a daddy to 3 boys. And today I'm a daddy to 3 more adopted kids who are my wife's kids. And then we had a baby together. And so we have 7 total now. But at that point in time, I was a daddy to 3 boys. And then my boys were very young then. They'd not been allowed to see their dad yet. Because as you can imagine, for them to see daddy hooked to tubes and hoses and wires would have been like pretty scary, right? They were told daddy got hurt real bad and just needs to sleep for a while. But thinking I was sleeping, they were told, we can pick up the phone, we'll call your daddy. You guys can talk to your dad while he sleeps and see if you can hear you talk to him. They thought about that for a minute and they thought. And my oldest boy Connor spoke up and said, no, we don't really want to call daddy and sing and talk to him. That mom was kind of like, why? Because we want to call him, sing to him. Here's why. before the Avalanche, I was a musician, used to play guitar a lot, and I can't play guitar today because my left arm is completely paralyzed, totally dead, so I can't use it at all. It's limp from the shoulder down. So I miss my guitar so bad. I miss my guitar way worse than I miss my snowmobile. But at that point in time, I used to play guitar with my kids, and they'd sing and dance. And their favorite song to sing along to, the best they could sing along at that young age, was a song by Matt Redman called "You Never Let Go." And the chorus of the song sings out, "Oh no, you never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go. Lord, you never let go of me." So they only knew the chorus. They could only sing the chorus, but they knew the chorus. So my boys called me in a coma. They put a cell phone in my ear and they sang "You Never Let Go" to their daddy in a coma. And here's the incredible part. I have no memory of this, but they recorded the fact that I raised my eyebrows and tried to smile. So obviously I heard my boys singing to me. And from that point forward, I began to show more signs of life, began to show more response to stimuli, more response to input. So I believe a miracle happened during that song. And I mean, it was a long journey even after that. That was day 10. It wasn't till day 41 I was out of comatose state. And when they officially said I was out of comatose state, my family had to look at me and go, "This is scary," because they were right. The doctor was right. I was like a child in a man's body. They gave me a pen initially and asked me to write my name. I couldn't write my name or the alphabet. I couldn't do anything like that. I had a hard time processing people in the room, had a hard time following um, activities and commands. And it was a long journey, but they got me out of bed into a wheelchair. I could not walk. Began to do physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, cognitive therapy every day, day in, day out. They get me out of bed and go as long as hard as I could. And this is where I had to really seize the moment, because I even told my nurses, I was cognitively enough aware. I was like, I want to get out of bed and go as long hard as I possibly can until I can't go anymore, and then get in bed, sleep again. They agreed, okay, we'll let you do that. So they let me get out of bed and go till I could go no more, then get back in bed and sleep again. I did that day in, day out, and I was hospitalized for 88 straight days. I don't think I got to explain to you, friends. That was legit. I mean, 88 days in the hospital is like being in prison for 3 months, because you can't do anything for yourself. You can't leave the facility. You can't, it's just, you're stuck in four walls for 3 months. But when I got to go home, it was awesome to go home. It was definitely a victory, but it was also very scary, because the hardest part of the journey for me was going back to a world that did not know me anymore. And I essentially did not know my world. When I left that world 3 months prior as an athlete, I mean, doing everything really well, right? To the point that I could do almost nothing very well. I could barely walk. I was walking with a cane at that point, just hopping along with a cane. Still had a hard time processing thoughts, things like that. I still had a hard time with everything. I was probably preteen level when I came up from the hospital as far as maturity goes. So I was very emotional, but I went back to a world that I had to learn how to live in again. And I just began to apply myself every day to the best of my ability, and to seize every moment and not waste a single minute, and just get better, not bitter, right? And it was a long journey to get where I'm at today. And if and I think it would be beneficial to your viewers to share that there was a point in time when I'm not Mr. Power or High Mighty, or Mr. Superhero, right? I'm a human like you are. And so there was a point in time when I hit my bottom, I hit my low, and I came home with the worst of all the injuries. By far the worst was not my broken neck, not my fractured femur, not those things like that. It was this arm right here. So it's dead. I can't use it, can't feel it, can't move it, can't do anything with it. But in that arm and hand, I had unbelievable burning nerve pain. Like unreal. Like you can't even describe it. It's like kind of like when you go outside, your hand gets cold, you come back inside, it gets hot too fast. That burning feeling, times that by 15 or 20, you're starting to get in the ballpark. But it's like that nonstop 24/7, because it was phantom nerve pain. The place of injury at my spinal cord is sending my brain a false signal that says your hand burns. So if your brain thinks your hand burns, it burns nonstop. And medication doesn't do a whole lot for it, because it's a false signal. And so they medicated me. At one point, I was on 8-hydrocodone, a few Lyric, and a few Oxycontin all in one day. I mean, I was just drugged out of my mind. I was zoned out of, and I had to have something. I scaled it back. I kicked the oxy, and I cut the hydros back to 6, but I couldn't cut it back any further than that, because I just couldn't bear it. All they could tell me for a remedy was long-term medication, long-term medication. And I kept hearing that run through my mind, long-term medication. I don't want to be a drug addict for life. I mean, who wants to do that, right? And so I sometimes wake up at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning with these weird pulsations where it would just like pulsate down, burn, 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 and then pull back, and then pulsate, burn, pull back, and just unbelievable to where I'd cry till my pillowcase was damp. I was living by myself at that point. I was starting to become more independent. And one time I woke up like 2 o'clock in the morning with these burnings and burning pains again, just deep, deep burn. Just, I mean, I was just weeping because I was so tired of the pain. It was emotionally tiring as much as it was physically tiring. And all I could hear run through my head was the doctor's voice saying, long term medication, long term medication. And I just started yelling at God and I said, God, I'm done. And I actually said, F it. I'm not a big profanity guy, but I said, F it. I'm done with this crap. I've pushed too hard. I've fought a good fight, but I can fight no more. I'm done. And I had a plan. I was going to take my life, and I'd already thought through it a little bit. And so I got my snowmobile gear bag out of the closet, began to piece on all my riding gear, pulled my pants into place best I could, got my boots on. And my plan was to gear up, head to toe on all my riding gear. And I was driving some of this point, so I was going to drive down the big tall bridge over the Snake River, put the bright orange helmet from the Avalanche back on my head, and jump off the bridge. And no doubt in that condition, I would have drowned. And what I told God was, you didn't get the job done right the first time. I'm going to gear up and finish this. I want to die in my gear. And I was very serious about doing so. I was getting dressed. And right in that moment, I guess you could say that God knew what would stop me not dead, but alive in my tracks. He brought back a thought right then as I was pulling my jersey into place, brought back a thought on my middle son, Ethan. Ethan's 18 today, but he was much younger then, obviously. And Ethan's just got a great personality, and he always has. And he's loved animals. He loves doggies, and he has his own dog now. But back then, he did not have his own dog. His grandparents' dog, Sadie, was like his dog. He took care of Sadie and bathed her and walked her, and he really loved Sadie. And recently, recently before the suicide thought, Ethan's dog Sadie had died of old age. And Ethan was just completely crushed. I mean, he was just like crushed. He's like, Dad, how can my dog be gone? She's gone. Age did not understand the permanence of death. He's like only like 4 years old. And he said, Daddy, how can she just be gone? And I tried to encourage him. I said, buddy, it's okay. She's in heaven. You get to see her again someday. And what he had said to me, what God brought back in the middle, that thought that God brought back at that point was, Ethan had said, but Daddy, I don't want her to be in heaven. I want her to be here with me. And the thought that this is a bold statement, but I think it's the only time in my life I've ever heard the audible voice of God. I heard an audible voice say to me in a still small, deep voice, just say, Matt, his doggy's gone. He's crushed. What happens if his daddy's gone? At that point, I erased the plan from the drawing board. I fell back in bed to begin to just weep, just gush tears. And I mean, sure, killing myself relieves me from my pain, but leaves my boys a lifetime pain missing their daddy. How could I be that selfish to take my boys' daddy away? And so I erased that plan on the drawing boards, never been back on there since. And then my prayer that night became, God, give me the strength to give my boys their daddy back. I just want to give my boys their daddy back. And today I've given my boys their daddy back. And I thank God I didn't take my life, because 10 months later, I found a surgeon in Chicago who had pioneered a surgery due to a really complex spinal cord surgery to fix that nerve pain. I have some nerve pain today, but I'm on a light dose of a non-narcotic nerve pain med. And so I have nothing narcotic in me at all. I'm clear-minded. I'm good to go. Thank God I didn't take my boys' daddy away, because now I'm daddy to 3 more bonus kids, plus a new baby with my wife, which she have a 2-year-old and a 20-year-old in the house all at the same time. So our 20-year-old's in college. But anyways, that's sorry, it's kind of long-winded there, but it's a long story. So that's what lays the foundation where I'm at today. I wasn't planning on writing a book, but life gave me a reason to write a book, and I published that, and life gave me a reason to become a motivational speaker and author and encourager and motivator and a lifter, and just who I am today.
Such an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. And my audience is already rolling their eyes in the back of their heads because they know what question's coming next. 'Cause I always ask it to authors as first one. They say that writing a book is about 98% procrastination and 2% actually doing it. How true is that for you?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I think a lot of times you do when it's go time, you do your best writing. But what I did with my book is I knew early on I was called to write a book. I knew I was supposed to write my story, and so I began to just take notes as I was going through the journey, and take notes as a thought came to my mind. And I had a whole compilation of just notes in my phone in this app on my phone. And then I began to compile a story, and every night in bed, I'd lay in bed and type my story out on my phone. And I eventually got a computer and kept on typing. I don't know that I don't think procrastination was a winner for me anyway. I mean, it might be for some people. Um, I just consistently wrote. The cool thing about me is I was able to write as I was going through a lot of the latter part of the journey. So I was able to write from those moments of pain, from those moments of frustration. So I'd say in those situations, I seized the moment, and I was very intentional about writings.
I like that. It's just basically journaling, and you're just sharing that journal now, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And what made you settle on a book as your medium? I always ask this because I mean we've got so many other mediums right now. I mean we've got shorts, reels, videos, articles, long form posts, short form posts. But what made you settle on a book as a medium for
I
story?
think that just at that point in time, there wasn't, you know, podcasting wasn't as big as it is now, and blogging was come around, but it was not as big as it is now, and social media was not as big, and so that was my medium. That was what made the most sense. But I just felt like I was supposed to do that, and so as I began to see it unfold, I realized that there definitely was enough content to make a book, and just made sense to write my entire story, and then write my lessons I learned along the way, and impart those lessons to other people. And so I initially just did a paperback, but then a year later, I recorded an audio version of the same book. And so my book is in audio on Audible, and it's the entire book narrated by me, which is pretty cool because then it's a lot more meaningful having it come from my passion, my emotion, and my frustration with those moments of the story. So it's pretty cool.
I like that. I like that for sure. And you've had a really incredible journey, and I have to ask, when we have those things happen in life, we make reflections and we learn things about ourselves. What do you think was the most surprising thing that you learned about yourself in that whole journey?
I would say that the most surprising thing I learned about myself was in a way, like an identity crisis. Like I wrapped my identity up in what I was and what I accomplished and what I gained and what I was doing. And I had to discover how to find my identity in who I was and who I am. Because when you come out of the comatose state and your body's completely unable to do anything you used to do before, the what is gone, right? What Matt Potratz was gone. But who Matt Potratz is still existed. And so obviously the who still exists when the what goes out the window. And so that was the biggest thing for me, was discovering that I still Matt Potratz is still here. I have one less arm I used to have. I can't run. I can't be athletic. I can't do the things I used to do, but I can live, and I can speak, and I can encourage, and I can still be who I am when I can't be what I was. That make sense?
No, that makes sense, and I'm glad that you brought that up because so many of us tie our success to the things that we do or the things that we kind of gather in our life, right? But we tend to forget that we are human beings. We're not human doings, so we're
Right.
not defined by what we do.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that every human in life has a tendency to fall into that rut if they're not careful, because the world we live in suggests that your value is based upon what you accomplish and how much money you make and the house you live in and the car you drive and like all material things, right? But the problem with that is that's all what you are. And in 12 seconds or less, the what can all be gone. And so if you don't know who you are, then you'll be lost, because that's really all that can live on is a who.
Well, and I mean, it's something that's like you said, it's ingrained into us by society right from the get go when we first start kindergarten, right? Get those gold stars for doing good work in school,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
and then go up and yeah, it's a little bit different because I don't think well besides kindergarten and I think the first week up until about grade 8 they kind of ask you what do you like to do and what makes you you, but after that we sort of lose it in the
Yeah.
cog of the machine.
matters what sports you play and how good you are at them and what activities you're part of. Us all we teach without even trying to. We teach people how to be what you are, not who you are. So I agree 100%. That's why I call it the identity crisis because it really is. It's a crisis. You can't live based upon what you are because that will eventually fail you.
You mentioned quite a bit that you're a big fan of the power, like the power of the right now, and obviously the accident probably changed your view on that quite a bit. But how do you think that your view changed in ways maybe you didn't expect after the accident?
I think just no, one of the quotes I've said for many years. It's not even my quote. I don't remember who even said it, but yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift. And so if I learn anything that I get one today, I get today one time. So if I don't capitalize on today's 24 hours, I don't get them back. It's not to say I can't recover to some degree, but when I was going through my recovery, for example, I get this set of 24 hours right now. Let's say I'm awake for 12 of those, right? Or awake for 14 of those. I get this set of 14 hours right now. I got to apply this set of 14 hours because tomorrow I don't get this set again. I get a new set, but I don't get this set ever again. So that's what I say when I say the power of now is you get to seize the moment because you don't ever get that moment back. There's no rewind button in life. You cannot hit rewind and try again.
No, I like that, and it's great that you're using your story to to get out there and motivate. So what's next for you, Matt, in the next year, maybe the next 5 years on the
Well,
horizon?
I mean, I'm definitely going to write more books, and I'm trying to grow myself as a motivational speaker. And I'm working on another book right now called the Short Little Book for a Long Big Life. Short Little Book for a Long Big Life. I'm gonna do like a 4x6 hardcover copy, like a little short little book, right, for a long big life. And so I'm working on that, and then I'll write more books as well. And then I'm of course going to grow as a speaker. But I'm also my wife and I also launched a we have a life insurance business now, a life insurance company where we offer life insurance annuities and retirement plans. And so I work with Symmetry Financial, work all online and do my stuff there so I can sell to people all across the US. So hey, if you need help with things like that too, I can help with your setting you up with a life insurance plan to protect your family. And so I'm wanting to grow that. And because I do care about that, I mean, obviously I had no idea I was almost going to die, you know? So no one knows what tomorrow brings. So I encourage everyone to have a life insurance plan in place. So I got that going on and then many things going on. Keep on keeping on, you know?
No, for sure, and it's and it's great that you're doing that, and again, turning that adversity more uh, into a benefit for others. Right? Matt, it's been a really good conversation. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Is there anything that you feel I should have asked but didn't ask, or anything you feel we should have covered but didn't cover today?
You know, one thing we didn't discuss, it didn't come up in conversation, but people have asked me a few times, like if you could pick the most fundamental concept of all things in your successful recovery, like what would that concept be? And hands down, it's every time the same answer is focus on the things you can change. Focus on things you can change. Because I can't change the avalanche. I can't change how bad it crushed me. I can't change the fact my left arm is paralyzed. I can't change all these things that happen to me. I can't change those things. So I can't afford to waste time, energy, passion, emotion on things I cannot change. I got to focus on what I do with it, not what happened to me, right? And so I would say I would encourage the audience just to focus on things you can change. Everybody at some point in life has gotten stuck wasting time and energy on things they cannot change. So what if we were to harness all of our time, harness our energy, harness our effort, and focus only on areas we can have impact? I think it would change the world and change our world. I think it's just every human being has a limited number of hours and limited amount of energy in a day's time. So if we're to focus those things on things that we can change, we're going to be more effective.
Wow. I love that, and it goes back to that Bible verse, right? The I keep messing it up. It's grant me the serenity to accept this what I can't
Yeah,
change, the
that's
courage
actually the
to
AA prayer, the recommended serenity, accept things I cannot change, the wisdom to know the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I always butcher it. I don't mean to. I just
I
I'm
butchered.
terrible at recollecting it. No, such a powerful note to kind of end the show on. Before we go, you've got so much going on. What's the easiest way for our listeners to reach out, get in touch, learn more?
If you just go to mattmotivates.com, that'll take you straight to my website. All my contact information's there. You can look at some videos of me speaking. You look at some um, pictures. You can look at video of the Avalanche. You can see videos of me, highlights of me riding when I used to ride pro. And so there's a lot of things happen on the website. I'm also on Facebook quite often, both my Matt Potratz profile page and then my Life Radically Changed is my business page. And then of course you can get me on Twitter and all the all the social media sources, but typically just my website's the fastest place to go to get access to all that stuff. And it's the website address is actually liferadicallychanged.com, but I set up a quick link to it that makes it easier. Just mattmotivates.com. Just go to mattmotivates.com, take you straight to the website. You can check everything out there. So, and I would love to just come speak at your church or your business conference or your school. I love schools. It's so powerful in schools. So if you know any way for me to get plugged in, let's reach out. Let's get connected for sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Matt. And to all our listeners, don't worry. We are going to put those in the show notes for you, so you don't have to worry about getting a pen and paper or pencil and paper to get that written out. And once again, Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a real pleasure. And to all our listeners, thank you once again for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And we'll
Exactly.
see you again next time.
Thanks.